Jack's first love got pregnant before marriage. To protect her reputation, he asked me to step in and be the stand-in fiancé. He would marry her first to register the child. He attended a charity banquet with her and admitted to the media that the child was his. I became the biggest joke among our social circle. Later, he came back to find me. I gently touched my belly. My baby won't need a father to register. His face darkened, staring fiercely at my belly, eyes bloodshot. Whose? I calmly smiled and said, my first love. Ha, everyone has a first love. We had been together for 3 years. We were about to get engaged when his first love reappeared. Their love story was famous for being intense back in the day. He settled down for her, stopped fighting, stayed away from shady places, but they didn't end up together. Because Jack's mom didn't like Sherry's family, said they were too poor. Her father was a drug addict, and her mom had questionable relationships with other men. They were forced apart. Jack got into a car accident while trying to catch Sherry before she got on a plane. When he called her, she coldly said, this is the end. Afterwards, his mom set him up with many blind dates, but he broke up with all of them in less than a month, earning him a reputation as a playboy. Until he met me, we hadn't broken up for 3 years. He would get into fights if someone scratched my eyebrow, beating them up until they were covered in blood. That time, I was really touched. I hugged his waist, telling him to stop, warning him it could lead to serious trouble and a bad reputation for him. His hands were trembling as he touched my injury. I consoled him, saying it would be fine. I thought he felt differently about me. I believed I was the one who could help him move on from his past. Until I saw Sherry, then I realized it was because I had doe eyes like hers, even a red mole at the end of my brow just like hers. No wonder he kissed me so deeply, would kiss the end of my brow passionately, and would call me Linda with such emotion. Linda, Sherry. He probably never said my real name. My name is Linda. Turns out, I was just a substitute. I really overestimated myself. Meeting Sherry was when Jack took me to a bar to celebrate his birthday. Sherry was a server in the booth. The moment she saw him with me, she went pale, looking at me with bitterness and resentment. Jack ignored her and led me to the sofa in the booth. His obnoxious friends instantly started mocking her. Isn't that Sherry, the goody two-shoes? How come you're selling drinks dressed like that? If you hadn't left Jack back then, you'd be living the good life now. Sherry bit her lip and stayed silent, her eyes reddening with anger, knuckles whitening as she clutched the bottle. Jack's face was cold, seemingly calm, as he watched her being humiliated. But after 2 years with him, I knew his habits. When he was angry, he played with a lighter to hide it. And that's exactly what he was doing. He wasn't calm at all. While she was pouring wine, one of them blocked the glass. You gotta kneel to pour the wine if you want to show sincerity. Tears finally streamed down her face. She stared straight at him. Do you really hate me this much? I wanted to tell them to stop. She was just doing her job, not here to take their insults. Jack's grip on my waist almost broke it. The pain made me gasp, but I couldn't make a sound. Just as Sherry was about to kneel, she suddenly collapsed. The wine bottle shattered on the floor, red liquid staining her white dress like blood. Jack couldn't hold back anymore. He pushed me aside and rushed to her, hastily calling her name. When he didn't get a response, he turned and glared at the guy who insulted Sherry. If anything happens to her, you can forget about thriving in North City. He stormed out without looking back, not even sparing me a glance. I fell to the floor, my palm pierced by the broken glass, blood mixing with the wine. How filthy. The alcohol stung my wound, making the pain unbearable. People in the booth looked at my miserable state and laughed silently. I guess no man can resist the allure of his first love, especially if it's her. When I got up to leave, I saw only the tail end of his car. I went to the hospital alone, got my wound dressed. I asked a nurse to take me to see Jack. His family had invited us over that night to discuss our engagement. I stood at the door and watched Jack with Sherry in the hospital room. He looked at her from above, eyes filled with complex emotions, love mixed with hate. He had never looked at me with such intensity. Sherry woke up on the bed, and when he was about to leave, she clung to his waist. Her face pressed against his back. She choked and asked him not to go. He told her to let go, but didn't move an inch. He coldly said, "You were the one who wanted to break up back then." "Yes, I wanted to break up. Your mom took videos of my mom with other men, and forced me to break up with you. If I didn't, she'd show everyone the videos. What could I do? Tell me." She let go of his waist and stood by the window. Seeing this, his hands trembled. He said, "Come here first." She gave a bitter laugh. "Jack, I want to die. Living is too painful for me." I was forced to leave. I went abroad with no support, was violated, and got pregnant. I wanted an abortion, but the law there didn't allow it. By the time I came back, it was too late to terminate. I never intended to see you again, I just wanted a job to raise my child. But why did you let them humiliate me like that? If I die, will you forgive me? Jack, I haven't forgotten you for a single moment all these years. He couldn't hold back anymore, rushing over to hug and kiss her. Then, he held her forehead to his and said, "You really got me. You've tormented me for so many years. This time, I won't let you leave. What about the girl by your side?" When she said that, her gaze shifted to me standing outside. Her eyes were filled with confidence until she heard him say, "It's just a family-arranged engagement. We can ditch it when the time comes." She smiled satisfyingly at me and hugged his waist tightly. "Jack, you really don't mind me. As long as you don't leave me without a word again, I'll marry you. So your child can be registered. No one will dare to gossip about you." Hearing this, I sensibly turned and left. He truly loves her to the extreme, even willing to be a scapegoat. Since that day, Jack has been frequently visiting the hospital. Tabloids took his pictures, publishing them with the headline, "Wall Street Prince attentively accompanies pregnant girlfriend." His girlfriend's belly was showing, suggesting good news was on its way. Normally, any gossip about him would be handled immediately. This time, however, it kept brewing. It seemed Jack had accepted it. People around started asking me if Sherry was really pregnant. I could only say not to listen to the tabloids' nonsense. Until the charity auction night, when I attended and saw Jack bring Sherry along. Everything couldn't be hidden anymore. All the spotlights were on them. When the reporters extended their microphones to Jack, asking, "We heard you'll be engaged soon, and you've been frequently visiting the gynecological hospital. Is there good news?" More microphones were pointed at Sherry, who shyly leaned into his embrace. Jack smiled devilishly and pulled her closer. "Ask me anything. Just don't bother my fiancé. The baby is still small. We didn't want to announce it this early." This confirmed her status as the future Mrs. Jack and the mother of his child. People around me were ridiculing me. They all knew I was his girlfriend. Originally, I was about to get engaged to Jack. Now, he publicly acknowledged another woman. Where did that leave me? At this moment, a reporter threw out a sharp question. "We heard your current girlfriend should be another heiress, Linda. Who is this lady? Isn't she a third party? Are you cheating?" Some reporters then came to my side, holding microphones towards me. "Linda, you're here too, please respond." Jack finally looked my way, and his gaze froze when he saw me attending. He felt guilty for a moment, but it quickly turned into a stern warning, telling me to play along, not to reveal our relationship to the media, not to make his first love a target of criticism. I said no comment, lifted my dress, and turned into the venue. Once inside, whatever I showed interest in, Sherry would act interested too. And Jack, like showing his favoritism, would bid higher prices to get everything I liked, making me lose interest and head to the restroom. Sherry followed me and blocked me when I came out, arrogantly saying, "Miss Linda, it's time you back out. You see how much Jack cares for me. He will marry me, so stop pestering him." I looked at her with a cold expression. "If you know we haven't broken off the engagement, you should know your status. I haven't bothered you. You should be thankful. How dare you show up asking for breakup? Have Jack say it himself." I didn't care about the engagement, but that didn't mean she could walk all over me. She grabbed my hand harder, looking more frenzied. "Are you trying to hold on to Jack? I won't give you that chance. He's mine only." As she grabbed my hand painfully, I pushed her off. She fell to the ground, holding her belly, crying loudly. "Jack, it hurts so much." She said, "I'm not good enough for you. She won't break up," and she pushed me. "Will the baby be okay?" Her cries attracted many onlookers. Jack rushed over, pushing me away mercilessly. My back hit the sink. A sharp pain made my face pale, and I slid to the ground. He picked up Sherry, looking down on me. "Linda, you're heartless. I can't believe you did this. If anything happens to her, I won't forgive you." He took her away without mercy, leaving me surrounded by ridicule. This woman is ruthless, pushing a pregnant woman. Does she want 2 lives? No wonder Jack chose a woman from the slums over her. She looks arrogant, but does this for a man. Desperate women pull any tricks. These despicable tactics always work. Outside the restroom was a blind spot for cameras. I had no way to defend myself. Someone lifted me up, and I heard a familiar voice. His tone was cold with sarcasm. "Left me for such a man." All other sounds faded away. I looked up and saw a face I've dreamt of countless times. My first love, John. Why did I meet him again so miserably? Why did you come back? He was full of self-mockery. "Now you don't have the right to kick me out of North City." 5 years ago, I met John at the club. John was a waiter there, clean and thin, catching someone's eye. A greasy middle-aged man wanted to spend $10,000 a month on him. John's cold face turned red with shame and anger, his eyes full of fury. But his fists, though clenched, didn't move. He was restraining his anger. He refused, but the wealthy jerk didn't accept rejection. I saw him being pinned on a table, hearing dirty words from the man. "I'm doing you a favor. How dare you act superior?" I smashed an ashtray on that guy's head. Smiling brightly, I pointed at John. "Dare to touch my man." Back then, my family had significant influence in North City, untouchable. As the jewel of the family, I was even more untouchable. The man profusely apologized and crawled out of the room. John said I saved him and wanted to repay me. I looked into his family situation. A student with nothing, parents divorced, living with his sick mother, working to make ends meet. That's why he's been holding back. I made him my driver. Later, I noticed him secretly watching me. His gaze was so intense, so brilliant, really captivating, and it touched my heart. But whenever I looked back, he would avoid eye contact. Once, when someone tried to kidnap me, he fought desperately to save me. His hands were fractured from taking blows for me. I couldn't suppress my love anymore. If he wouldn't make the first move, I would. I cornered him and raised an eyebrow, asking, "Do you have a crush on me?" I saw his ears turn red, the blush spreading to his face. His usually cool face looked flustered. Finally, he lowered his head and softly said, "I dare not." I frowned, unhappy, and forced him to look me in the eye. "Is it that you dare not or you don't?" He pressed his lips tightly, silently confronting me for a long time. Finally, he admitted he loved me but felt unworthy. I told him love has nothing to do with status. If he accepted, he should kiss me. He kissed me passionately, and we confirmed our relationship. After 2 years, I broke up with him. My words were like knives, cutting deep. I said he was just my driver, the lowest of the low, never worthy of standing by my side. I was just playing around. He took it seriously. How much is true love worth? Did he really think he could marry me? I was the jewel of North City, with countless suitors lined up worldwide. Who did he think he was? I told him to get lost and never let me see him again. His eyes showed confusion, pain, and hurt as he trapped me in his arms, red-eyed, asking, "Didn't you say class doesn't matter? Why say this now?" I patted his face, sneering, "You believed those sweet nothings. It was just a rich person's game. Now I'm done. Don't cling to me." He fell to his knees, humiliated, begging, "If it's just about money, I'm young. I'll work hard and have a chance. Please don't leave me." The people with me beat him up, throwing a card with $50,000 at him as a breakup fee, warning him not to bother me again. I didn't want to see him in this city anymore. As he chased me, he fell down the stairs, head bleeding. I got into my car and left without looking back. John took me to the hospital. After a checkup, the doctor said luckily, it was just soft tissue damage. The doctor prescribed medication and advised us not to play so rough. If something gets broken, or internal injuries occur, it would be regretful. At first, I didn't understand until I saw John's ears turn red. I realized what the doctor was implying. Blushing, I quickly explained, "We're not like that." I hit the sink during a dispute. John's expression darkened, and he turned away. Looks like 3 years apart changed him. He used to never get mad at me. I was about to get my medicine, when John brought it to me. "The room is mostly empty. With your condition, it's better to stay overnight." I thanked him, taking the medicine. I had so much to ask, like why he was successful, and explain why I ended things, but couldn't find the words. His outfit was expensive. His watch a limited edition Patek Philippe, clothes all custom made. He had done well for himself. Finally, I said, "How much was the hospital bill?" "I'll pay you back." His face darkened with anger. "No need, miss. I owe you 50,000. This is nothing." He sneered, shoving the medicine into my hands before leaving. Last night, I pushed Sherry. It was all over the news. Socialite Linda fights over Wall Street prints, almost causing a tragedy. Not just in print, but on many online platforms, posting videos of Sherry falling. The internet was filled with outrage against me. They said, "This woman is vicious, breaking up a first love. Doesn't she fear karma or infertility?" Some think money gives them free reign, pity the first love. No money means you deserve to be bullied. A homewrecker being so arrogant, attacking the rightful partner's child. She'll do anything to steal a man, disgusting. Intentional harm, don't let her go. My private Facebook was exposed, flooded with hate messages, photoshopped black and white pictures, curses wishing my family ill, endless insults calling me a homewrecker. By the afternoon, the narrative started shifting. Someone posted doubts. The video only shows the ending of Sherry falling. How does that prove Linda pushed her, calling her a homewrecker? But Sherry was abroad when Linda and Jack got together. Who cheated? These doubts led more people to reconsider. Jack posted on his Facebook, "From start to finish, I only had Sherry." This made me the target again. They said if Jack said so, he never dated Linda. Some people are just clowns, thinking a few questions can control public opinion. Boycott everything from her family's company. Linda, I warned you to leave Jack, and now you're suffering. Sherry, in her hospital gown, smugly walked into my room. Seeing her like that, remembering how I pitied her being bullied, I felt like a fool. The compassionated deserve their plight. You're ruthless, falsely accusing me, willing to harm your unborn child. That little brat shouldn't live. Using him was worth it to get rid of you. Shame he's still alive. If you know what's good for you, break off the engagement quickly. Otherwise, you'll be destroyed by public opinion. I raised my hand and slapped her twice. She was stunned for a moment, and when she tried to fight back, I said to her, Jack is right behind you. Do you really want to hit back and stop acting pitiful? She immediately changed her expression and turned around, only to see no one behind her. She looked furious. You lied to me. This was the first time I truly understood what it means to change one's face faster than flipping a book. With anger, she tried to slap me back. I grabbed her hand. Black and white can't be so easily reversed by you, Sherry. One day, you will be counterattacked by public opinion. Linda, it looks like you still haven't learned to restrain yourself. This time, Jack actually showed up. With one motion, he protected Sherry behind him. She pitifully claimed she only came to see if I was okay. He said she was too kind, which is why she keeps getting bullied. I withdrew my hand and leaned against the hospital bed, looking at him with a cold smile. Take your first love and get out. For the first time, my attitude towards Jack was so firm that he was stunned. He told Sherry to go back to the ward first. Sherry looked at me worriedly, but Jack said he was going to discuss the engagement breakup with me. So she reluctantly left. You were never this cruel before. I initially intended to keep you around, as long as you behaved. At least you could deal with my mom. She always liked family status matches, and she was quite satisfied with you. Ha, he still wants to have it all. I sarcastically said, what? You still want me to be the mistress? Now that you're a threat to Sherry, it seems I can't keep you around. I didn't push her. She fell on purpose. Do you think I'll believe that? I directly interrupted him and coldly said, I agree to the breakup. No need to discuss it further. Now leave. Initially, I wanted to part on good terms, but they had to push me. I won't let this matter go so easily. John arrived with lunch for me, standing at the door. I didn't know how long he'd been there or if he saw what happened. When I saw him, my heart skipped a beat. I thought he was so angry last night that he would never come back. He brought the lunchbox over and put it on the table. Eat. I obediently sat up, took a bite. Chicken soup. It tasted just like the one he used to make for me. I thought you'd never come to see me again. Suddenly, I felt an unprecedented sense of grievance. The online attacks, facing endless curses, and just now Jack breaking off the engagement. None of these moved me much, but at this moment, facing John, all the suppressed bitterness and grievances erupted. Why are you crying? You're always strong to me, but let others bully you without fighting back. The more someone comforts you when you cry, the worse it gets. I couldn't stop crying. Tears kept falling until he said, if you keep crying, I'll kiss you for every tear. I stopped crying immediately, staring blankly at him. He lifted his finger to wipe my tears. All right, eat your meal. I'll help you with this. But, don't you hate me for how I treated you back then? Yes, I do. Then why help me? I haven't touched you, so why should they? But if I help you, there's a condition. What? Get engaged to me. My mom recently wants to see me married. She always liked you and often talks about you over the years. Again with the mom likes me. Looks like your mom didn't know I once beat you up. John arranged for my discharge. He arranged for another girl to go out first, dressed like me. As soon as she stepped out, she was surrounded by many reporters. Apparently, they were there for interviews. Fortunately, this hospital is very private, so no one can easily get in. They were all waiting outside. I got into John's car safely and sat in the passenger seat. When we got back to John's place, they were still living in that same old apartment building. I was surprised. By now, any one of John's belongings could easily buy a condo. As we walked up the stairs, he explained to me, my mom is used to living here. She won't move even if we bought a new place. She knows the neighbors around here well. Moving to a villa would isolate her, so I just let her be. Her happiness is the most important thing. Auntie, how has she been all these years? John's mother once worked multiple jobs to support him, and she got heart disease from overwork. After a heart transplant, she's been much better, just needs regular checkups. When John's mother saw me, she smiled warmly and held my hand. Linda, finally you came to see me. It's my fault, I should have come earlier. John didn't tell me you were back. John just smiled without saying anything, but it didn't reach his eyes. I believe if his mother wasn't here, he'd definitely mock me again. He wouldn't dare notify me, I once ordered him to be banned. John's mother said they were out of soy sauce and sent John to buy a bottle. Once he left, she held my hand tightly. Linda, John has suffered a lot these years, but he never says a word. He never forgot you, but he never mentioned it. When he heard you were getting engaged to that Jack, he was drunk for several days, calling your name. One time, I threw away an old wallet by mistake. He dug through the whole landfill to retrieve it. When he found it, he took out a photo inside and smiled. That's when I realized he never forgot you. You were born into a rich family. Our John had a tough life, stuck with a mom like me who couldn't help him with anything and needed his care. Now that he finally made something of himself, give him a chance. Auntie, don't say that. He really is great. I don't deserve him. If you two can talk things out, it's better. I can't stand to see him living like a zombie again. We will. That evening, John had a bit too much to drink. John's mother, citing her heart condition, went to bed early and asked me to take care of John. I helped him to his room and wiped his face. This house has just 2 rooms. It's not my first time crashing here. Back in the day, not long after we got together, I had a big fight with my family. My father humiliated him, saying he was just a driver and had no right to be with me, that even his job was given by me and he couldn't offer me happiness. My father said he was only with me for my money, thinking that just because he saved me, he could be superior. In a fit of anger, I dragged him to his home. I slept in his room, and he told John's mother that I had a fight with my family and needed a place to stay. He slept on the couch. I joked about eloping with him when he took me home. He always blushed and couldn't face me, saying, Linda, I want you to marry me right and proper. There will come a day. After that, he was dismissed from my family. To cover his mom's medical bills, he worked multiple jobs a day. While I lived at his place, he tried to buy the best food for me. I saw him getting more tired, thinner by the day. I learned from others that my father had blocked all his job opportunities. With his education, it shouldn't have been that hard to find work. The jobs he got were just labor work at construction sites or serving at a club. But he never complained, and I couldn't bear to break up with him. Linda, Linda, John called out, grabbing my wrist. I'm here. He opened his eyes, looking at me with drunken, deep, passionate, and moving eyes. For the first time in all our reunions, he looked at me like that. Soon, his eyes misted over, and he pulled me into his arms. It's really you. I must be dreaming again. I felt warm tears on my neck. Why did you break up with me back then? Because you were poor. Money is important. Life isn't sustainable with just love. The saying love conquers all doesn't hold up in reality. Back then, John's mother's heart condition worsened and she needed a heart transplant urgently. John's mother didn't want John to worry, so she asked me to keep it a secret. The company was also facing a financial crisis, and my father insisted on breaking us up so I could form a business alliance, easing the pressure from our partners. This way, we could secure the investors threatening to pull out. The company was my late mother's legacy, and I had to protect it. I eventually relented, laying down 2 conditions to my father: find a suitable heart for John's mother and fund her treatment, and never interfere in John's career again. My father agreed, and on the day a suitable heart was found, I heartlessly told John we were through. It was the quickest way to cut ties completely, even if it would shatter us both. I have money now. You're not leaving, right? I'm not leaving. Seeing him again, I realized that claiming I'd moved on was just self-deception. Only when I'm with him, I feel alive, my heart pounding. He lifted his head and gently kissed my face. Don't cry. I hadn't noticed the tears streaming down my face. He whispered in my ear, if this is a dream, let me sleep a little longer. I made headlines again. This time, it was Linda with the new tech mogul John. The pictures showed me getting into John's car. John returned to the country, but kept his identity mysterious, rumored to be an elderly chairman in his 50s or 60s. They said that failing to snag Jack, I turned to chase an old man, calling me money-hungry, a fallen socialite, worse than a gold digger. Word had long been Linda's family fell from grace after her dad's death. How could a woman manage such a big company? She must be using her charm. The gossip was harsh. Back when I was with Jack, we were in a group chat together. The people there mocked me. What happened to those days of her arrogance? Now she's no better than a pimp. Nick, don't pick an old man. I'll give you face. Pick me. Michael, Linda, are you really that broke? If you need, we can lend you some cash. Tom, miss, if it's that tough, I'll talk to Jack for you. Jack, Sherry, don't be too kind. Good people get bullied. Their smugness was unbearable. Casually, I posted a video online and shared it in the group. It was the full clip of Sherry's first provocation and her faking a fall, after buying it from someone who filmed from afar that day. I posted it and compiled proof of my 3 years with Jack. The day Jack announced Sherry was pregnant with his child at a charity auction, he had messaged me, discussing our engagement details for the next night. It proved Sherry was the mistress. Those who sprayed me with insults suddenly turned on Sherry. Their vitriol, hatred, all redirected at her. They started digging into her past too. Ethan, previously threatened by Jack, shared online findings in the group. Sherry, is this real? I found that when she first started dating Jack, she was already with a dancer. The reason she broke up with him wasn't Jack's mom's pressure. She was even paid by Jack's mom to keep quiet, not a breakup fee, but to protect Jack's dignity. After dumping him, she married that dancer abroad. The dancer cheated on her with his partner, kicking her to the curb. When Sherry found out she was pregnant, she schemed to reunite with Jack. I didn't expect things to get so juicy. Sherry cried and told Jack not to believe it. Jack just left the group chat. She went crazy, cursing and calling me a bitch. I watched as people in the group started mocking Sherry again. I called her a clown, then immediately left the group. I couldn't stand staying in there another second. As I went back to pack my things, planning to stay at John's mother's place for a few days, I saw Jack at my doorstep, surrounded by cigarette butts. His face was unshaven, and it was clear he hadn't slept all night. He looked utterly exhausted. When he saw me, he reached out to grab me and called my name with a smile. Linda. Don't call me Linda, I said with disgust. I didn't know Sherry was this kind of cheap woman. How can she compare to you? Let's not break off the engagement, okay? Actually, I've been thinking about you all this time, and didn't even tell my mom we broke up. I had already communicated our breakup to Jack's mom over the phone. It was settled the night he told Sherry he'd marry her. Initially, Jack's mother wanted to hold on, but when Jack admitted at the charity event that Sherry was carrying his child, she knew there was no going back. I didn't speak earlier out of respect for a mother's feelings. Back when our families announced the union, it gave my family a break from near financial ruin. So, we owed them a favor. I'd planned to handle it quietly. After all, it was just a business marriage. Neither of us loved each other. I thought we were even, but after everything that happened, I couldn't hold back anymore. He grabbed my hand with a mix of regret and desperation. Linda, did you never love me at all? Is that why you can leave so decisively? You never loved me either. Even when you called my name, you were thinking of someone else. I was just a stand-in for you. At least I tried to love you once. Don't act like you're the only victim here. I thought of moving on when he fought for me once. His deep gazes moved me, though I felt guilty. I figured, since we were getting married, maybe I should try to love him. But even before feelings developed, I saw Sherry's photo, her side profile, during our first year of college under the locust tree, and the words written on the back, "Forever love, Sherry." That's when I realized I was just a stand-in. No big grievances, just a sigh of relief. We both had our own unrequited loves. From then on, I didn't want to love him, just did what our marriage needed. He teared up with remorse, choking on his words. I regret it now. You know, when Sherry's mess came out, my first reaction was relief. Finally, an end to her. Over these 3 years, I've unconsciously fallen for you. I pitied her more, wanted to compensate her. I clutched my stomach, retching from disgust. His shock was clear. What's going on? Seeing his expression, I knew he misunderstood. I was just disgusted by his words, but I didn't care to explain. I gently rubbed my stomach, teasing him. My child doesn't need a dad for a name. His face darkened, eyes bloodshot. Whose? I calmly smiled. My first love. I don't believe you. You're lying, right? Who has time to lie to you? You just have too much salt in your life, looking for trouble. John walked up, wrapped an arm around my waist, and pushed Jack away. What are you doing here? Mom worried you couldn't handle the move, so she sent me to help. Jack, Linda and I are getting married soon. We'll send you an invitation. Hope to see you there. Holding my waist, John nudged Jack aside and walked inside. Jack stood there, looking devastated. Once inside, John dropped his hand, his expression turning cold. Mad? No, he was clinging to you. Why didn't you call me? If Mom hadn't been worried, you'd have let him hold on to you. I didn't want you to come here and remember unhappy things. Your man's not that fragile. Who's the one who cried in my arms that night? Linda, you were the one crying louder. I glared at him angrily. When are we getting married? How come I didn't know? No proposal either. He immediately pulled a ring from his bag, knelt down. Linda, after all these years, will you marry me? The ring's so small. Not your style. After a moment of silence, he said, This is the ring I bought the day we broke up. I didn't get a chance to give it to you. You beat me up instead. Looking at his somewhat pitiful expression, I asked, you really don't hate me? You don't want to get back at me by being with me and then dumping me? TSK, you saw through my plan. He smiled, but then turned serious. Linda, at first, I did hate you. Every night, thinking why you messed with me, made me fall for you, then left. Later, Mom got her heart transplant. Surgery and recovery cost exactly $50,000. Once I calmed down, it all made sense. Over the years, I climbed higher, to be on par with you, to deserve another chance with you. But watching you move on, I considered fighting for you. He didn't cherish you, so I got this chance. I sincerely want to marry you. His earnest confession brought tears to my eyes. I wanted to wait until he was sober to explain. Unexpectedly, he already understood me. I reached out and took his ring. I do. Why else would I have the evidence and agreed to your engagement proposal, you idiot? He couldn't wait and posted a picture of our hands clasped together on social media. He also showed his face, proving he wasn't some 50 or 60-year-old man. That night, Jack got completely drunk and called me again. He kept calling my name, begging me not to leave him, saying he knew he was wrong. John reached out and took my phone. Please don't bother my wife again. Then he hung up and blocked Jack's number. Over the next few days, we were busy planning our wedding. On the eve of our wedding, a mutual friend of mine and Jack's, Tom, told me some news about Jack. Sherry didn't keep the baby. It was Jack who pushed her down the stairs. She kept pestering Jack, claiming he promised to marry her, so she wouldn't leave him alone. But they had lost their feelings for each other. Their arguments always got ugly. One time Jack had enough and pushed her out of frustration. She tumbled down the stairs, bleeding heavily. The baby was gone, and she almost lost her life. They had to remove her uterus. She could never have children again. Maybe because she lost the chance to become a mother and marry into a wealthy family, Sherry decided to bring Jack down with her by reporting their drug use. The police caught Jack using drugs with a group of people. Jack was taken for a urine test, which came back positive. He really was using drugs. Given the high amount of drugs, both were arrested. John held me from behind, asking which wedding dress I liked. I said, don't tell me about him anymore. Come to my wedding in 3 days. I hung up and pointed to a satin fishtail gown, this one. I don't want to hear about that loser anymore. I now have my own happiness.